Welcome back again to the Unlearning Curve. I am here with JD Forehand, who will be a birthday boy by the time this comes out, and so we have to be nice to him in this episode, unlike other ones. And Carl Forehand, the man that apparently his sexual his sexual prowess is what brought about JD's birthday.
So right, I'm a devout. It's good talking to you guys.
It was
Thank
God's
you.
intervention.
It was okay. Yes, like
I hope God interdicts on my behalf when you guys keep talking about that, whatever that was. Let's not even bring it back up.
Yeah. We're already up to a good start, and I'm Stuart Deloney, and we've already been talking about Carl's junk, so we're already off to a good episode where we're going to be talking about miscellaneous things, from the news to our lives to anything else. If you guys have questions, if you want to disagree with us, if you want to call us heretics, if you want to tell us you love us, either way, the Unlearning Curve Podcast at gmail.com. We have a Facebook group and podcast, YouTube, all that good jazz. Look for the Unlearning Curve. It's probably going to be us. So yeah. So all right, you guys ready for our miscellaneous potluck episode?
Yep.
Let's get it together. Go. Also, one of the best parts of
you mentioned Epstein,
my church life. Potlucks.
I can just barely hear you, JD.
I said one of the best things I remember about church was potlucks. But anyway, you keep going. I don't know why my voice is getting quieter.
So we talked about potlucks, and Carl wants to talk about Epstein. So
again, proclivities.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know.
That's the word I couldn't get out of my mouth.
I don't know if the Epstein files ever come out, or they will, or if all the FBI agents that are reviewing them right now will just toss out the bad ones or whatever. Anything that we know Trump was there. We know he was a part of that whole deal, along with probably Bill Cosby, maybe Bill Clinton. You know,
Bill Clinton was definitely there.
All political people.
Epstein called Trump one of his best friends, I believe.
And Trump was flying his plane recently.
Flew on his plane. I wish he would have flown his plane because that would have crashed. But
no. Actually, when Trump's plane broke, he borrowed Epstein's old plane, and he was flying around in it for much of the campaign, 6 months or something like that. But he
just enjoys that old pedophile smell that the thing's got. Yeah. Memories.
Believe that.
Yeah. It's really kind of a terrible thing. And the Pizzagate and all the adrenochrome and all the things, we've talked about that before, that they try to place on other people, on Democrats, and Nancy Pelosi's ahead of all that, and the Pizzagate and all that stuff. There's sure a lot of other evidence. We talked about projecting before, but there's a lot of other evidence that Trump was knee deep in that stuff and said gross things like he'd probably be dating his daughter and things like that. We know it's pretty obvious. Why don't you just admit it? Say it's unfortunate that I did some things I'm not real proud of, and why don't we just, I'm doing better. I'm going to do better. That would go a lot farther with me than trying to act like we're stupid and don't know,
But can you imagine him admitting fault in anything and taking responsibility for anything? You're right, Carl. I just don't.
He doesn't, but that's what he was taught by his mentor. Never say you're sorry, never admit you're wrong. Just keep fighting, lying, whatever you have to do to promote the narrative you want them to accept, and eventually you wear them out, which is what happens a lot of times. People just get tired, and they're like, he just lies constantly in every sentence. And people just
all his own stuff, and he also listened a lot to his dad, who was a joiner of KKK rallies. So, is it that surprising?
No,
I don't think so. I gotta let my dog out. No. Hold on, she's gonna freak out.
Yeah. But it makes me think, where is the cracking point in the cognitive dissonance of MAGA? Because this whole thing has been one of their the apex of their conspiracies for the longest time, and Trump has also been one that has helped to push this out there as well. And so this is kind of it's coming back to potentially bite him, but I don't know if anything will officially bite him because he probably tastes like old fried chicken and bronzer, but I don't know.
Can't get past the smell, I guess.
No.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's been, it's one of those things that just the majority of Americans are probably sure that he was on those planes and on that island. He at least participated in stuff and chased really, really, really young women girls while he was, that's right, not young women, girls, while he was married.
Mm-hmm.
And chased most of his current replacement wives while he was with the other wife. And we know
sometimes
that about
when those wives were pregnant.
Yep.
Or having a baby. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just admit it,
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, don't be surprised that people want you to be held accountable for it. I mean, we don't go after or try to highlight when pastors when they're unfaithful, they commit sexual abuse. We don't go after them because we're agnostic or atheist or of a different religion and we want to destroy them. We go after them because what they did is not right and it hurts people. And you need to become accountable for it in a real way and lose some of your money and lose some of your power and get some real help. Don't just, get thoughts and prayers and continue on and continue to abuse people. Anyway.
But I just don't even know. I don't know what it's going to do to break the fever dream. I think if they even release all the files and they're heavily redacted, I just don't know who it's going to actually satisfy and make it move on.
I don't think, while I do think that there is some division on the right now, and also, again, the Democrats, Bill Clinton, also very heavily on the flight log. So Democrats are they're not free of staying themselves.
Showing his penis to people and stuff.
We
know he did that.
This is why giving politicians this amount of power and not holding them accountable when they do things like this or when there are allegations, not taking them seriously enough, or like when he was, power assaulting Monica Lewinsky, not holding him accountable, but instead calling her a slut and a whore and blaming her instead, which is, because the Clintons smeared her. That's is anyone surprised that this is going to happen? But I hope, of course, that this affects Trump. I hope it splits his base and that he loses any support that he had, because they really claim that they care about things like pedophilia, etc. But there's a very famous meme / tweet, and I don't know who is the originator of this, but the tweet goes, "Well, I like to see old Donnie Trump wriggle his way out of this jam. Trump wriggles his way out of this jam easily. Well, nonetheless." That's literally what we've been doing for the past 10, 11 years.
Yep.
Because no one's serious about it. No one's going to take him again. No one in the Republican Party is going to do anything, and the Democrats, they want to hold on to their power as well, so it doesn't hurt them to be in the minority. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all these people, they don't lose anything from it. They're absolutely, in some cases, they gain from it. So I just don't understand why this is surprising at all to anyone. This is what happens when you just give people this kind of power and you don't have any ability to recall them or hold them accountable. When you let the police themselves, this is what happens.
Yeah.
So we got to fix the system, or it's going to keep happening. Children are going to continue to get hurt. And if you claim to care about that, then let's do something about it.
Yeah. He definitely controlled the press, from back in New York days and so on. And as we talked about before, it's still his main objective, to get rid of the press, to get rid of any accountability for his life. And I think with accountability, there's bad accountability. There's like false control and things like that. Accountability is misused in religion, by the way, a lot. Mm-hmm. But saying that I want no accountability means I'm open to my own quote unquote demons. I'm going to say, well, everything is based on, we want people to have an intuition, and things like that, but without any outside accountability. If I'm above the law, if I'm above criticism and so on, it just leads so quickly to.
And this is like what we've talked about before. I loved how you mentioned like bad accountability. How churches will handle it, where a pastor has a scandal and he goes away to counseling, or essentially gets a paid vacation for doing bad things.
He takes a Ted Cruz vacation.
Yeah. Yes. Oh. And then just ends right back out of it 2 years later or a year later. and there's no accountability, and all they do is just realize, oh, wait, I'll be smarter in how I play it this time. I'll just make sure not to make those mistakes of getting caught last time.
Yeah.
You just learn how to, it's like going to jail. You learn how to be a better criminal, right?
Yeah.
And jail is like actually a punishment. Like this is like you're getting rewarded essentially.
But what kind of accountability would even matter in this situation? Like when we're talking about with Epstein and Trump and all of that too. What would that even look like? Even I don't think it's possible. But what would it be? I mean, he gets arrested via suspicion of stuff. I don't know, or just his base dies and quits following after his orange ass. I mean, that would feel good.
I don't know if
that's accountability.
I don't think he realizes that he could be even more powerful if he would be vulnerable and accountable and say, yeah, I know. I messed up some in the past. I did some things. I said some things that were kind of not thought through. And if he could just come across with some vulnerability or some shame, to use a bad word, say just I'm ashamed, not I'm experiencing shame, but I'd come across as a real person, which we know he is. He's just really immature, right? He's somewhat of a real person, real mechanical in his desire to stay childish. But if he could just say, yeah, I recognize I did some things that were bad and I'm really sorry for them. I want to change. I'm changing my life, but he can't articulate that. He never.
You're operating at such a higher level than him, though. He has arrested development at like the age of like a 12-year-old. Like,
yeah.
I also just do not think he's like well educated or intelligent. I think education doesn't necessarily mean formal education, but I don't think he's ever had to learn anything in his life. He was born on third base and thought he hit a fucking triple. Like, what do you expect? Like, his dad is Fred Trump. Like, I just don't know. I mean, this is why I think we have to get away from. This is why I don't think. Honestly, you want my honest opinion? I don't think that we should let people be able to be that rich. I just don't think it should be allowed. You should get to a certain point and go, great, you're cut off now. Everything over the money you make right now goes all to taxes. And I think that can be opulently wealthy, but we can't have the problems that we have where we can't stop little girls from fucking drowning to death in the middle of Texas while people have more money than fucking God. Like Bezos or Musk. Like you can't buy elections anymore. Sorry. Like it's just not allowed. I think that's one step. It's not going to solve the whole problem. There's so many issues with that, but I think that's one step towards it. But yeah, with him, I honestly, I want to always be hopeful and say maybe he can change, maybe something will wake him up, but I think it's a lost cause. He's 79 years old. I don't think he's going to have a change of heart this late in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's won. People sycophantically support it.
I mean, the only change of heart we could have is just hopefully a heart attack. That would be nice, but
that would be a change of heart. Yeah,
that would be But no, but it's like you're right. Like, I can't imagine any of these like heartwarming stories where someone who's 80 finally just realizes, oh no, everything I've done in life was wrong, and I just need to go on an apology tour and just clean up all of my shit for the rest of my life because I've finally seen it happen. No, I just don't.
I think for some people, consciousness would kill them.
Yeah.
Right. I think, you see that sometimes when people come to great realizations, they just go, oh, it's more than I can bear because I've never borne the weight of responsibility. I just do what I want. I don't pay my bills. I'm not accountable for the things I say. I don't have to tell the truth. I don't have to care for people. I don't have to worry about anybody else, just about what affects me. I get revenge. People let me get away with it. And I think any kind of consciousness would probably kill him. Because he's never felt the weight of worrying about somebody else more than himself. And again, we don't want to get into bad Christian doctrines that abuse that.
Yeah.
Where you don't matter, what you think is not important and so on. You don't want to get too far down that road either. But I think consciousness would kill some people.
What is it? Is the book? Is it The Portrait of Dorian Gray or something like that? But it's where it's this guy is beautiful and he never ages, but he has like this painting of himself that he keeps hidden, and it just shows his age and his ugliness and everything about himself, even though on the outside he's very beautiful. And I feel like that's one of those things, like for him to truly see himself in the mirror and then even feel the weight of just even a small amount of accountability, I think it would. I think it would be crushing. And I think that there's probably some sort of dissonance in people's minds that keep them from that position, because they would probably want to off themselves after realizing, oh my God, look what I've done. But I don't think we're running the risk of that with old Grumpy.
Well, when you've kind of like propagandized yourself or been propagandized by those around you for that long, I don't know. I mean, we kind of touched on this a bit earlier, but I don't know if there is any realization of that. I'm not sure. I hope there is, and clearly for some people there can be. But yeah, with him, I don't know. I've kind of given up hope in that regard. But again, this goes back to another thing we talked about, which is why I think we need to get more organized on the local level, because there's nothing any of us are going to do about Trump. Like, it is what it is. I think the only effect that we might have is by voting in local elections, which could potentially swing these kind of things. And obviously you look at like the fact that people have gotten organized on local levels. And even though Trump has supported candidates or Musk has funded candidates to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases, they've still lost. And that gives me a lot more hope. It's like, okay, yeah, the situation we have ourselves in right now is probably going to be the way it is for the next at least 1 year, maybe 3. But if we do organize on local levels, which includes both like doing political things, but also just organizing things like we've talked about in past episodes of mutual aid, taking care of the people that the system just drops on the ground. Again, like going back to the Texas thing, if people organized mutual aid instead of giving fucking useless thoughts and prayers or going to church and going, wow, how terrible this is. Like, I wish God would do something about it. Instead of doing that, if they would have got off their asses and done something about it, maybe it would be a little bit better. I think that's the answer. Yeah. They're part of the answer. It's not the whole thing.
Yeah. I have a question about Giselle. So Giselle is
You mean Ghislaine?
Ghislaine? Max?
Ghislaine.
Yeah. Am I saying it wrong? Or is
it's Ghislaine Maxwell.
I was going like, what did Tom Brady's ex-wife do to you, Carl? Why are you bringing her up?
I literally also thought of Tom Brady's ex-wife.
Yeah, I'm glad people keep track of the details better than I do.
Let's call her Maxwell, because I think saying jizz too much may get us in trouble with YouTube.
That's true.
Miss Maxwell.
Even though I'm pronouncing it with a G.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can call her Ghislaine.
You two should know the difference when I'm saying jizz and jizz.
Yeah, so I don't know. I also don't know if it's Ghislaine.
It's a subtle difference.
Anyway, Maxwell. Yeah, sure.
So what's her deal? And so she's stuck in prison. She obviously has the information, right, in her head. Maybe she's given that and it's been suppressed.
Well, Trump's talked about pardoning her, so.
Yeah. But will that keep her quiet? Maybe she's already given that information. And the last release kind of with lots of stuff blacked out and Trump was called something, code name kind of thing in it. But I thought it was real revealing what kind of came out, and then it kind of got squashed again. People like her could clear it up. What would be the motivation to not?
Well, if she opens her mouth, she may somehow end up accidentally like falling in her cell and having a sheet wrap around her neck accidentally and then foibling on the ground. And that happens sometimes. There's probably banana peels and other stuff in there.
Yeah,
breaking her hyoid bone and
exactly.
such.
No, but also with her, like the larger question is, if at least with the DOJ and stuff saying that, well, nope, he didn't have a client list, he acted alone. This was just his deal that he was doing. Then you're just like, so okay, cool. So why is she in prison? Mm-hmm. I mean, it kind of blows a hole in part of what they're trying to ask. Like, he was part of this enterprise with everything, and she was like his right hand woman. But then at the same time, but there's nothing here to see really. He just, I just don't get it. I mean, it doesn't.
Also,
the logic is broken.
It's essentially what nearly everyone in the Trump administration ran on, including Trump himself, and like Kash Patel, like that for the last since Epstein died, they've been they've been talking about this on their various podcasts, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Like, but now it's just like, no, we flipped because Daddy Trump seems to be in trouble, so we pulled the ripcord. Like, it's just, it's very interesting. But again, I think it's incumbent on everyone else to recognize that and not stop talking about it, and also vote accordingly, and also do other things accordingly, which gets complicated. But like, point being is like, these people should all be anathema now. You're all claiming to care about these things. You're all either now lying, or you were bullshitting, either on purpose lying, or you were so misinformed that you were so wrong that now your opinion is the exact opposite. In any of those cases, you're not fit to hold fucking the office of dog catcher, let alone head of the FBI or the goddamn president of the United States. Like, not acceptable. You're done. Like, sorry. It's the same thing as pastors that, fuck their secretary, or like get caught doing meth and blowing men or something. Like, sorry, you're done. Like, it's fine. Like, you're not done in terms of society. That's fine. Come back in. We'll help you. We'll fix your problems. But you don't get power anymore. You're done. Like, that for your life is done for at least 5-6 decades. Prove yourself to be otherwise, maybe. But like, you don't get to like come back from that. Sorry.
Yeah, and being with a man is not the issue, but being
of course
with
not.
a man when you're married to a woman and committed to her.
And being with a man when you constantly harp at the podium, at the pulpit, and say, it's wrong, it's anathema, you go to hell, this is the thing that God hates most. And then that's what you're doing.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you remember the televangelists used to visit our little tiny church when we were building the first church, and before we built our actual building, that evangelist would come by, and he was recommended by the former pastor in town, who was basically an independent fundamentalist Baptist and real dogmatic and so on. But then this televangelist that all of them raved about, and he came around every year. So he came to our church, and then he came a second year. And I think before the third time he came, he had preached against TV. He had a big deal about America's sick and America needs to get, and he always had a younger man as his music guy that he probably didn't pay much, and just took him around with him to sing. He sung, and this guy preached.
He probably bought him nice dinners some nights.
Yeah. But come to find out, I mean, it all crashed when he, it was like an incident one night where he's chasing this other guy down the road. He's not just committing homosexual acts, but he's a predator. He's an abuser and a piece of garbage, Like you say, it's okay if he's gay, in my opinion, but he's vehemently preaching against anything out of the ordinary or like that, even watching TV. Yet he's got a TV in his closet in the mobile home or whatever they traveled in. And, all that stuff. Again, nothing inherently wrong with TV. We can watch some TV and some movies and so on, but don't, stand up and preach that you're against it and then have one. And then worse than that, be a homosexual. And that doesn't even sound right. I used to say that, but it's not.
Be a predator. You shouldn't be a predator. You shouldn't be a predator. You shouldn't be a hypocrite, and you shouldn't be a predator. Like that's what it is. But you're right. Yeah, there's obviously there's
people that do things they don't want to do. It doesn't have near as much with it being man on man. It's just wrong.
Now, was this guy a traveling evangelist or was he a televangelist?
He was a traveling evangelist.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I was going to say the anti-TV thing and the televangelist thing was fucking me up too.
No, but there's a lot of that, like, do as I say, not as I do. I was kind of going like, well, sure, that I can see someone pulling that.
JD was only 6 or 7. He might not remember that. We might not.
I feel like I don't remember the exact sermons, but I bet like I remember the guy. Because the funny thing is, I do still remember.
Jerry Powell was his name. Jerry Powell.
I don't know. I remember faces a lot better than names, but like the crazy thing is I still remember so many times where we would go on the road, and I don't remember like where we were, but I remember like just little snippets from like those, like being in churches where people are like trying to talk to me, and I'm like, dude, I don't know who the fuck you are. Like, why are you talking to me right now? Like, it's like bizarre. Being a I think being a child in general is weird, but like being a pastor's kid especially, just like with people who are just like come up to you and like just start talking to you. And I'm like, have we met? Do I know you? Like, oh no, I know your dad. I'm like, you realize like he doesn't just download that shit into my, I don't know who the fuck you are, like stranger danger. I'm going to go skateboard away. Please, like, fuck off.
Yeah.
It's weird, man. Adults are weird. I say that as an adult now, but yeah,
for sure.
We should treat kids a lot better. I don't like how we treat children.
Yeah, that's some of the abuse when we just assume they want to hear what we think. We just assume they need our advice. We assume they automatically have reason to have a relationship with us, even though, like you said, there's no logical reason for that relationship to already exist, but it's just by association. And it's way too much for kids. Because JD, as we mentioned before, traveled around with me when I was doing supply preaching, when I was early on in the process. Saw some of that, the sausage.
It wasn't all bad. It was fun to travel with my dad, and like we got to go to some places, saw Mount Rushmore, things like that. It's okay. It's not all bad, but again, like
that church was weird there, but
a lot of the churches we went to are weird. Churches are weird. Let's be honest. Like churches are just
okay.
Weird.
So, as a traveling like supply pastor, is the weirdest one, or what are some of the highlights of weirdness that you have seen, Carl?
Yeah,
or JD, since you've been there too.
The one in South Dakota. It was while I was a pastor. I went to do kind of a revival night or something somewhere in South Dakota. So we got to go to see Mount Rushmore, which wasn't that exciting to me. But I had to preach that thing, and after it's over, they people line up across the front, and they're like, "Come on, you come lay hands on people." I'm like, I don't think so. I don't really want to do that. They're like, "Come on, you're a pastor, come on." And before I know it, I've delayed them long enough. They just go on ahead and do it, and they walk down the row, and they're knocking people over, and people are falling out and stuff like that. And I'm like, even as a Baptist fundamentalist, kind of thing, and believing in the Spirit and so on, that was just really strange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I think that is one thing, and it's true not just of churches, of course. It's true of like small communities and stuff. But when you pop into something like that, and I think churches are like a little bit extra, or religious places in general, it doesn't have to just be churches. They're a little bit extra in this, is where like it's like when you go into like a new friend group that like you maybe know like one person kind of in, and then like you have to adapt to it very quickly. You're just like, what the fuck? Like sometimes you're just like, what is going on? Like I don't get any of the references. I wasn't expecting to like anything like this to happen. It's just weird. And like, that's kind of like the human condition to some degree, but it's also like, man, with churches, like you really don't know what you're walking through. Like you don't know if people are going to be like all like standing and kneeling and praying at their seats and everyone's like very formal and kind of comes in and leaves, or are you getting snake handling? Like you could just be handling snakes and speaking in tongues. Because I remember that with the speaking, like we talked about the place I used to go for youth group sometimes. That place, one of the first times I went there, we like got into small groups. We were going to do prayer. I always thought prayer was like a little bit awkward, but I can improvise a quick prayer. It's fine. I got practice. I do it most days at dinner time at the time. And so I was like, this is fine. And then a guy like who I knew like moderately well just starts speaking in tongues. And I didn't really understand what that was. I was like, what the fuck is his deal? And they're like, he's speaking in tongues, like he's channeling the Lord. And I was like, no, he's like having a fucking mental break. Like, what is going on? And after that, I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I mean, I kept going, but I would like, whenever they would do like prayers, I'd be like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Like, I'll be back in a bit. It's like just peeking in the window, waiting for them to stop. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? It's so bizarre, man. People are weird. What I have to say.
I was hoping you were going to say you've been around snake handling. That's one thing I've not gotten to experience. That's one thing I'm not going to do. Yeah, I
would love to. That would be. I have handled snakes, but not in a religious setting.
Yes,
I used to have friends that raised exotic animals. That was fun, but I would honestly I would do that just if I could like go in and like take pictures, because that's great. That's like the top level of like
I know.
What are we doing here? What are we doing?
One of the churches is really a positive experience because it was, I'm going to say a Swedish church, but it was people kind of all from the same country and et cetera. But they made like 7-layer desserts and stuff.
See, I told you
that was
potlucks.
good. Yeah. We used to call one of our churches the Church of the Eternal Brunch.
That's true. That's true. I remember
the
that.
ladies were always, they had committees and, our churches are generally not more than 100 or so, right? Smaller town churches. But have a whole committee and a big kitchen and that's everything to them, producing that meal. Some of that was good. I mean, but
it's usually delicious, but they never have these kitchens for feeding the community, though.
I know. Right?
This is what I'm saying. Why can't we just if we want to have a building and we want to do like church, why can't church just be like maybe every day? Fuck. I mean, let's get crazy. But at least like a couple days a week, even Sunday, Wednesday, like we usually do with church and youth group, just do a community kitchen. You go in, you get a free meal all day. We got people cooking, people who like to cook, they cook. We all kind of like donate money. And then we just eat and have community. That would be so much better than church.
Even have some entertainment. I mean, that's okay.
Sure, have the kids that love to play music play music.
And speakers
just no sermons.
are okay.
Comedy
speakers are
and stuff.
okay.
Yeah.
And just run it, and you can come in, you can go out, and it's like it's free for all. But like you don't need to do it where like you have someone in charge. Just have an open mic.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Comedy and free food sounds amazing, and music is. Yeah.
But the church has always done that, going back even to the first pope or the first few popes and things. It's always said we got to get, once it grows or gets any kind of size, we got to control this. We got to get it under control. And therefore we need rules. And in some cases, we rewrote the whole theology of the Bible and such because we needed to be under control. And so we assume people need to be berated every week for the rest of their life.
They do if you want to keep the hierarchical structure and keep people in power and make sure the people at the top make the money.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
got to be under control. And they even have a verse for that, right?
Yep.
What is that, Stuart? Do you know? Everything should be done decently and in order. And decently in order to most churches means under control.
Yeah.
Preserving our beliefs forever
until
we write a new belief statement. But then, it's just all the wrong focus.
Yeah. No, but it is about control, because you mentioned that, JD. I was like, I remember when I'd worked for kind of a mega church like way early in my career, and it was like they had to like teach me their way of handling mics. Like when you have like open mic with stuff, like, oh no, you never let them hold it. If you let them hold it, you're never getting that mic back, and we're gonna have to listen to everything that they say. So you're kind of doing you walk in the crowd if they're doing some sort of open mic or asking the pastor stuff. And they instructed us, like, nope, you always hold it. You pull it away when you kind of feel like
grip on it.
And it's done. But it's so controlling. Like they actually had to because I was just like, well, if people are going to talk, let people talk. It's called open mic, open questions. And I got, oh my God, I got reamed out. And then they had to teach me the correct way of controlling the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Because
which is bizarre.
Because it is about control. It is about control. That's what the whole thing is about.
We don't want to throw off our production.
Yeah. Well,
They so people started starting home churches for a while. And what they realized starting home churches, that it's kind of the rule of 70 sometimes and so on. You can't maintain relationships with over 70 people.
Mm-hmm.
So if, home church sounds like a good idea, let's just come to my house and have food and love each other and hang out, let our kids play together and so on. That'd be a good church, wouldn't it? And then, we go through it. But then if it has any success, it just seems to have organization, right?
Yeah.
So then people start saying dumb things like, well, we could have unorganized religion. I'm like, well, people don't like that.
And usually there's a person in there that wants the power anyways. Because it's not natural for us to want to found communities. There's always someone that, I want this role. I want this, instead of just like, no, that's not the point of community. You're just supposed to all be here and enjoying each other. You don't get to be higher than everybody else. That's,
But then
in
whoever
community,
has that is highly, everybody else is trying to be that.
Yep.
They're trying to be the control. Anyway, go ahead, JD.
you're chasing that money and power. All I was going to say is just that like real community, especially once you get into numbers, it's messy and it's uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. You give that person the mic and they say something like, everyone's like, ooh, I don't know if you should.
That was kind of crazy.
Yeah. But instead of like actually having a conversation and maybe understanding that person's point of view or bringing them around to your side, we just don't want to hear it. You just sit down and pay your 10% every month and we'll be okay. Like, because that's what it's about.
Yeah. The only truth in all that is that we're hardwired for connection. We need connection.
For sure.
We need attachment is what it's called, early in life. We need to attach to something. We need to be connected to each other and to our environment and so on. So that's the only truth in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of like looking at it in a sociological perspective, you need to be socialized. You need both primary, which usually happens in the home, but we need secondary socialization, and a lot of times that goes to your whole life. But when it's parasocial, it's you're not being fully socialized, which is why you have those people that want to grab the mic and say, like, the tap water is turning the frogs gay, and fluoride is mind control and stuff. Is because they don't have that community where people go, listen, that's bullshit, and here's why, and I'll show you why, and I'll walk you through it, and I'm going to love you through it. Like, I'm not here to like attack you. But no, we don't do that. In churches, usually you do get attacked. You go, no, we don't say that here. Sit down, shut up. Like, you're in trouble. You're sinning. You're bad. Shame, shame, shame. Feel bad about yourself.
Destroying God's work.
Well, just like James Dobson, it may not be we're not going to do physical violence against adults. We'll do it when they're kids because they can't fight back against us. But once you get older, we'll definitely make you feel like a piece of shit, and we won't help you heal from that.
Right.
And then you create a bunch of broken ass people that will at least sit in the pews and give you 10% a month. So
is it like, I just like wrapping this back around to Dobson, because we talked like a couple episodes back about the idea of like spanking and abuse and how it was good. And at some point you I guess societally you can't do that to adults anymore. I mean, like, once you get old enough, you can't keep beating them, but church does it like psychologically and spiritually. They continue that beating process, and it just full circle.
Yeah. I've been pummeled a few times. Pummeled. Yeah.
It's all cult stuff though. Even the beating in cults, obviously the physical beatings do actually happen. But like literally, if you look at Dobson's, and I didn't like detail this fully, and I feel like I could do like 6 more episodes on Dobson. But anyway, like his method for spanking is, I talked about that, where you have to spank them hard enough. He always says, like, you shouldn't, be excessive, but you should beat the fuck out of them until they cry sufficiently. But then what you're supposed to do is like let them stop crying. And then he says basically what they'll do is they'll come back to you. And usually the child will like try to hug you. And then you hug them and comfort them. So you're both the punisher and the comforter, a little bit like the God of the Bible, but that's a cult technique. It's literally like brainwashing 101 is you like Jim Jones, like if you want to, this is an easy example because most people know who it is. Jim Jones would do that all the time. He'd berate his congregation, sometimes physically beat them or make them fight each other. But he would beat the fuck, and then he would pull them aside after. I love you. The reason why I did this is because I love you. I'm here for you. And the other people, they don't understand, but I had to do this because I love and I trust you, and I want you to be the good person I know that you can be. But you have to listen to me. And then, what do you? I mean, of course, people. What are you going to? You're going to step up again? Of course, you're not going to.
Right.
It sounds
again,
like
it's adults creating crisis or dysregulation, and then when they regulate you back, that's a breakthrough. We broke through. We did the right thing, and it was all mostly instigated by them when you dared to speak up, or when you were just in crisis mode. And they made it worse by not being regulated, not knowing how to regulate themselves, and overreacting or over-responding or, thinking weirdly about the whole situation. But then when it's over, I was just trying to help you. And you can't blame me, and you can't talk about this. Just accept it.
And the situation is obviously going to yeah, the situation obviously is gonna calm down because everyone is eventually gonna lower their cortisol levels and things like that. And then it's like, see, we made it better. And it's like, no, like not being berated made it better. Like you not being an asshole to me made it better. So, but obviously when emotions are high and when that, for a lot of people, like in the small towns that we came from, aside from that, like people didn't have community. So it's like, do you want to be ostracized from the entire, because if you leave that church, everyone's going to be gossiping about you. Everyone's going to be talking about you. And I don't know, that's not like an existence most people are willing to live, because it's not a good existence, because we do need community.
Right.
Yeah. And it's terrible when it's these situations where, I mean, these abusers are the problem and the prescription, for fixing it in the same thing. Like, so it's just a very inward and gross loop to live in.
It happens in the sermon. It happens in the sermon. It happens in the music. It happens in the way we quote unquote discipline, and go back to the other episode to think about that some more. Yeah. But it happens in all areas of that. I mean, the sermon is really to get you dysregulated. The music takes you up and then brings you down. And then we have a sermon that dysregulates you and then comforts you at the end because you've made a decision or cried or regulated yourself. Now the crisis is over, even though we created it for you. Mm-hmm. And now that's touted as a breakthrough. And all because of Jesus and all because of God. Because he loves you enough to dysregulate you, I guess.
And if anyone steps outside of any of that, you get absolutely pummeled. Because, I mean, I used to run AV for the church. And I remember one time, we played, I don't know if you guys know who this is, but we played an Under Oath song. And Under Oath is like a screamo band, right? But there's a song on one of their albums. It's the last track. And the whole thing is like, they're a Christian band. But we played it and it's like a little bit electronic, but it's like very soft and very slow. And at the end, it gets really heavy. But I played it during offering once. And it was it's very melodic and like, it's kind of appropriate almost. But it gets a little bit high at the end. And I faded it out before it like went heavy. But I remember one of my friend who sometimes helped me run AV, because we were just like in the back, like, oh fuck, I'll play the song, I'll do it. And they was like, no, you won't. I was like, I will. And I was like, boop. He's like, oh shit. And then, but one of his parents, I'm pretty sure it was his mom, like got super pissed about it afterwards and like got onto him. And then he was like, oh, like we're in trouble, blah, blah. And I was like, but at that point I was just like, I had been through all that shit before. And I was just like, I don't fucking care anymore. Like I felt bad for him, and like I like didn't want to obviously be in trouble with his mom, and it made me feel uncomfortable. But like, it's just so stupid. Like, why does it matter? It's just, but it goes back to the whole thing of like, you have to do everything by the letter, and it's all dictated from the top. And if you're lower in the hierarchy and you break the rules, I told the story before about the time when I was overly questioning one of the Sunday school teachers. And it was just like, no, we don't do that. It's just like, why not? Why the fuck not? Like, if you want to say I was being an asshole, that's fine. Like, hey, we're doing it in the wrong way. But like, I can't ask questions. I can't try something new. Then you want to say, hey, it's wrong but there was no explanation of like, this is why it's wrong. It's just like, we just don't do that around here.
Yeah.
I did. I run AV. So you want to run AV, feel free. Your fucking husband sleeps in fucking church. Stupid ass fuck.
Yeah. And you I know who you're talking about in both those cases.
I get so angry at these people.
So many people turn around and look at the sound guy.
That's why I love running sound though. It's because you would sometimes be like, oh, next slide, and then I would click it. Like, I was distracted by something, but I'm running silent. Like, you put any of those people back there, go, okay, run the soundboard, run the PowerPoint, same time. Also listen to the sermon and actually listen, because I would listen and like kind of try to figure out whether I would like it or not. You miss it for half a second. You say something to me, and you weren't ever mean about it. You were always fine about it. You would most of the time like laugh about it or not react at all. But these people, they turn around. What are you doing? You fucking come back here, motherfucker. try to run it for 10 seconds. Everyone's going to be looking. You're going to be blowing out the audio. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, everyone wants to just judge because, again, that kind of elevates their position a little bit. I know you fucked up. I didn't fuck up. Well, it's like, well, I know you did because I saw you sleeping the other day. But that's why I like running AV, because I could just sit back there and watch everyone.
Yeah.
Sleeping again. You're not reading. You're bullshitting. You're on your phone.
Yeah.
So then when they did look at me, I would just be like, you're a fucking hypocrite. Shut up.
Yeah.
It probably gave you something to do instead of always having to pay attention to all like the other shit.
Exactly.
So it was like, okay, I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. It was way more interesting. It was fun. And as a kid, you need that stimulation. Like, what kid can sit for, like, even I tell my students, they'll be like, I'm tired, or like I feel bored or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, what we're doing right now, it's like it's like we got to learn this. But hey, you want to stand up? You want to walk around class? Because I walk around. I couldn't sit down and teach. I know some teachers that sit down and teach, and the students think they're fucking boring because they're just sitting there being tired. Like, I walk around. I literally just walk circles around class. I tell the kids, you need to wash your face, you need to go to the bathroom, whatever. I don't care. Go do it, but then come back and pay attention. But if you have a problem, then talk to me. But I'm not going to be like, oh, you're lazy or what? Like, you don't get it or whatever. Like, it's just such a stupid way to approach things. And it's not, in terms of like, if you study like educational psychology, it's not a useful way to teach kids or even adults. Yeah, but it's a good way to build resentment and hate, though.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, we're still filling factories. We're still, we just need rote obedience, and even if you don't like it, get through it, because that's what we're going to expect of you in a few years to work in a factory and do what you're told. So anyway,
it's back to Dobson. It's classical conditioning. Yep. It's all the bell rings. You go eat lunch. The bell rings. You go back to class. But that's another thing I tell my kids. And also when kids are dysregulated, of course I try to calm them down, but sometimes they like want to argue. And we have 15-20 minute arguments in class, and like high volume arguments sometimes. Like of course there are lines where I'm like, you're being rude. We don't do that. Or you're saying something inappropriate. We don't do that. But like, you want to be upset with me? Maybe I'm upset with you. That's fine. We're going to have this conversation. At the end of it, we're going to go back. We re-regulate and we'll be fine. But like, people in a lot of cases, especially people in authority position, because I know a lot of other teachers can't take that. They get defensive. You're disrespecting me. And I don't like disrespectful kids. And I tell the kids, I respect you. You should respect me. But kids are kids, and they're going to be disrespectful sometimes. And you can't, if I lose my shit, how can I ever expect a kid to contain theirs?
Yeah. You can't regulate a dysregulated child if you're dysregulated.